So today I just wanted to run through this reflection that I've prepared to help inspire us all, and I'd like to, at the same time, extend gratitude and thanks, and to talk about why we're here today. Really what we're doing here today is all of us like, in our individual ways, to get together and say, things aren't going to change, nothing's ever going to happen. And what we're doing here today is actually taking those first steps of ownership and saying, you know what, I'm going to stop griping and I'm going to start doing something about it. It's really easy to be stuck in our studios, to be isolated, to be alone, and to forget that we're actually surrounded by a community of creative people. So today I'm going to share with you a lecture that I'm calling The Power of Limits, a rule-based approach to creativity. This is essentially the secrets of my success, right? How do I get stuff done? How do I continue to work? How can you steal those and use them in your own studios? And we're going to talk about zombies, so it's even better. Essentially, I want to say you have to first fall in love with your ideas. A lot of people look at my work, which is made from reclaimed denim, and say, oh, it's the material. It's all about the material. And it's really a fallacy. It's something to guard against. Artists should not fall in love with their materials. They shouldn't fall in love so much with their process, but you should fall in love with your ideas. And all of us have things that drive us and make us passionate about making. We have things that we care about. We have issues that we want to address. We have stuff that we want to change in the world. And we're really the glue that holds the society together. Earth is continuously trying to tear itself apart, and we work to tie it back together. That's really the role and the job of artists, is we're kind of actively creating, literally bringing new things into the world, changing the world through our actions. And so the work that we do and the work that we engage in is really valuable and really important. It's important, I think, to be reminded of that on a regular basis. And what I mean by fall in love with your ideas is, as a first rule, is that that's the thing that you have to love most. And everything else is a result of that. It's about making your idea the #1 intent and killing your darlings to everything else. And I'll talk about killing your darlings a little bit later on. Your ideas are like cows. I grew up on a farm. I use a lot of farm analogies. I apologize. But your ideas are like cows. They're in this little fenced-off pasture, which for today we're going to imagine is our rule set. A little four-sided structure, easily defined, easily picked up and moved around, filled with lots of big beasts of ideas wandering around grazing, kind of happy and dumb, right? Our cows are like our ideas. They wander around our pasture. And they can be locked down, except I've seen cows do this. And your ideas do this sometimes. They push against the rule set that we're going to make for ourselves. They push against the edges and the borders of things to stretch and get that tasty grass, because obviously the grass on this side is better than the grass on that side. The basic elements of creativity in this rule-based approach to creativity is defined beautifully in this little video called Everything's a Remix. Anybody seen this one? It's a great video series. I'd encourage you to go out and watch it. But essentially, the basic building blocks of creativity are available to everybody. Copy, transform, and combine. Many of us start by copying. We all have heroes. We work to copy our heroes' ideas. We work to emulate those things. We play covers, right? That's the way to think about it. For a long time, I covered Caravaggio. I covered Rembrandt. Those were my heroes and people I wanted to be like. You can transform ideas. You can stretch them a little bit. You can make them your own. This is a real legitimate source of remixing and creativity. But when things get really powerful is when you take two separate ideas and begin to combine them into something new and transformative. This is where the fun really begins. Okay. So as I'm asking you to have rule-based creativity, what I'm saying is define a simple set of rules. Because why? Because rules help us defeat analysis paralysis. How many of you have sat in the studio and stared at blank canvases or blank pages and gone, what is this going to be? What has this got to be? What's it supposed to look like? There's too many choices. And this is what's known as analysis paralysis. When we have all the choices and all the tools available to us in the world, it's hard to move forward. Rules, if you put limits on what actions you can actually do, help defeat the paradox of choice. Too many things cause paralysis. And so we're actually narrowing what we can do and defining the roots of action. Somebody who does this beautifully is Stanley Kubrick, and some of you may have seen this video. Rules tell us what to do when we go in the studio. I have 3 children. I have 20 minutes. And I have a day job as a college professor. I don't have a lot of time to dick off, right? I have to get things done when I'm in the studio. Stanley Kubrick and other really prolific artists use rules and sets of rules to help dictate what they're going to do. One of Stanley Kubrick's rules is, when I want people to pay attention to something creepy, I will use one-point perspective, because one-point perspective is a special way of looking at the world. Most of the world is asymmetrical all the time. It's random, it's chaos. When we force people into one-point perspective, what we're saying is, look, pay attention. And Kubrick does that beautifully and to great effect through his whole series of films, Clockwork Orange, AI, all the ones that were ruined by other people. They tell us what to do. If-then statements, right? As the creative people that you are, I'm saying, place if-then statements on your work. Rules are designed to narrow your possible routes to action, and you can use them to uncover the power of logic, to establish rituals, and to get more work out of your studio. And I'm going to use examples. Cindy Sherman is a great example of a rule-based creative person. How many of you are familiar with Cindy Sherman's photography? What does she do?
She started off taking pictures of herself, and then she eventually got a few collectors, and then she broke every freaking rule, and it's kind of distorting what she does now. But she has collectors, and it doesn't matter.
Well, she can do whatever she wants now, but what's really interesting about looking at somebody who has rules is, rule number 1, I am a photographer. Rule number 2, I will take pictures of myself. Rule number 2, I will call those things film stills. You know, rule number 4, and et cetera, et cetera. Lots of different artists employ rules, and you can look at artists' careers and figure out which rules they're using. Mike Mignola, the famous author and drawer of the Hellboy comics, right? Pretty good, well-known graphic artist, comic artist. He has rules too. What are his rules? I will use shape-based drawings. I will use high-contrast tinterers in black and white. I will use Gothic architecture, zombies and monsters. Those are his rules that he's used as a set of things to narrow the possible choices. He's not drawing Veronica and Jughead because his rules say, don't do that. And of course, I like Neil Gaiman's rules. Neil Gaiman gave a commencement speech once and said, really all artists just need 3 rules to be successful. Those 3 rules are, be nice, show up on time, and have great work. But the caveat to those 3 rules is you only have to do 2 of them at any one time. Be nice and have great work, and people will forgive you for being a little bit late. Have great work, always be on time, people will put up with you if you're an asshole. Right? So you only need to do just 2 of those rules at any one time. But be nice, have great work, and always show up on time. Rules often produce harmonic results. Simply by following your rules as a creative person, you produce work that is more consistently similar to one another. We're going to talk about my rule set that I use in just a minute. But what often happens is as you follow rules, harmony is a result, which makes it easier for your audience to follow. But beware of typecasting. I wrote here, leadership is knowing when to break the rules. And we're going to talk about breaking the rules coming up. My rules are very simple, and I'll define those for you in just a minute. But the artist that always jumps in my mind is Garth Brooks. The country music star Garth Brooks once had an alter ego Australian rock star album under the name Chris Gaines. Totally serious, totally sincere. He became Chris Gaines for a hot second at the height of his country music star career. It was a terrible disaster because 1, he broke the rules, and 2, his audience could not keep up with him. So he asked too much from his audience, and they hated him as a result. You can change your rules, and you can evolve your rules, and you can evolve your work and change your work. But you need to be generous and understand your audience. You need to say, how fast can they move with me? David Bowie is probably a better example of a more successful musical star who does this. You have 1979 David Bowie, you have 1982 David Bowie, you have 1984's Dark Crystal David Bowie. All interrelated, slowly evolving, slowly changing. Shows up in Flight of the Conchords. I love this. You can see them all in one scene. My rules are easy. They actually developed organically. I began to have children. I couldn't oil paint in long stretches anymore. I was really having a lot of difficulty making work. I went in the studio, and the rules evolved organically. I didn't kind of sit down and say, I need rules. I just noticed them after I had done that, and that's why I'm giving this speech today. My rules, right? How big is my work going to be? My work is going to be life size. Always. Doesn't matter. That's a choice I don't have to make anymore. I can go in my studio and say, how big is this supposed to be? It's life size. Okay? What shape is it? It's people shaped. What's it made out of? It's made out of denim. So these rules define and limit the actions that I'm actually able to accomplish, and actually help me focus more on what's important right now, which is producing the work. Produce or perish, right? To sit and stare at blank pages and to wonder what your work is supposed to be, to wonder what the shape of it is supposed to be, is wasted time that you never get back as an artist. And we all are working against deadlines, and we all have a really big deadline at the end. Okay, we have 80 years to change the world. That's not a lot of time. So I'm going to encourage you to define rules for yourself and to use them to actually help you increase your productivity, to help narrow your results, to help you be freed up to be creative. Rules are actually very freeing. When you don't have to think about where the edges of the pasture are, I can then say, how is this one different? What new technique do I want to bring to it? What new thing do I want to try out? Every one of my figures is different. And that's really exciting, but I follow the rules to get there. I had a sparkly glittery gem. He's off the side here, but I really like that. Rhinestones. They always like, don't use rhinestones. Rhinestones are awesome. Whose rules should you follow? Not mine. Your rules are the best rules. They don't have to be deep. Make a narrow rule set for yourself. Generally 3 to 4, possibly 5, is enough to accomplish everything in the world. To narrow your actions down enough to make everything possible. I like this Incomplete Manifesto for Growth that has really good rules, and it's always evolving, so you can go back and check on it. But one of my favorites here is the one that confirms my suspicions. Don't be cool, it says. Cool is conservative fear dressed in black. I like that. That's really telling. Be who you are. That's the most radical thing that you can do, is to not conform to other people's standards and expectations of what artists are, who we are, what we look like, what we do, what kind of work we engage in, but to be who you are. That's a very important rule. Okay, so some places to start. Place limits on your tools, your subject, content, genre, your material, your time, and your process. This is Tim Sachs, 10 Bullets. You should go out and watch it on YouTube. It's a great manual for production. These are all things we can place limits on. Let me tell you about where I work. I have a one-car garage. I was asking Andy, how big is this? This is nice, right? Don't you wish you had a studio space like this? I hear it's available for rent from time to time, so maybe you can work out a sweet deal. I work in a one-car garage, and I share that one-car garage with 2 bicycles and a lawnmower and several wheelbarrows and shovels. And I still manage to make all my work. Why? Because I place limits on what it takes to make my work. What do I need to make my work? I need a table, scissors, and denim. Very low-tech operation. Just requires time. All things are possible. You know, the 3 things that artists never have enough of? You guys have all said this. I don't have enough space. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough, what's the 3rd one? Money. Well, can you design work? Can you make rules for yourself? That you don't need the money, you don't need the space, you don't need that much time to accomplish it? You can. And I'm standing here in front of you as living proof. I never had enough time, never had enough money. I have not bought materials in 4 years. 4 years. People are like, well, where do you get your denim? I say to crowds like you, who's got a pair of jeans in the closet that they're ready to get rid of? I ask super sweet because that's Game is rule number 3. Hey y'all, everybody got some jeans they're ready to get rid of? And they come in little short stacks of piles, all laundered and nice. Sometimes I have paint on them, I like those ones. But I have not had to buy materials because I've tapped into people's sense of generosity, and that gives them part ownership over the work, where they can be involved in supporting my career, and then they begin to think of themselves as part co-conspirator or collaborator, and then I have their support. And suddenly I have a constellation of people behind me. I can't do this all on my own. It's too crazy. I need a constellation of supporters, patrons, of networks of different people that I can engage with, and that's who you're staring at today. This is your background team. Andy, I need this. Mike, I need that. Evelyn, do you know somebody who can do this? And that's what a creative constellation of people around you can help do to buttress your career. Okay, zombies. I promised zombies. We got zombies. Understand your genre and its discourse conventions. Now, this is high-minded speak for know what you do. Zombies. We all understand that zombies is a subgenre of which major dominant genre? It falls under what? Post-apocalyptic, which is usually grouped under horror. Very good. Now we have 2 schools of thought on zombies. We have fast zombies and slow zombies. I'm going to go the more canonical route and say slow zombies. Okay, today, just to simplify things, slow zombies. How do you kill a zombie?
Shoot it in the head.
How many times?
As many times as it takes.
2 times. He's seen Zombieland. He knows the rules. 2 times. 2 taps. Make sure that zombie is dead. Don't conserve bullets when you're, 1 shot might kill it, but maybe you missed. 2 taps. Always carry Twinkies. So there are rules to understanding the discourse conventions of zombiedom, right? Who's the real enemy in zombie movies? Who's the real monster? Is it the zombies? It's the people inside the house with you. Those are the real monsters, right? That's the discourse convention of all zombie movies. These are rules. Look at how many different permutations of zombie movies we have. Because we know zombies move slow, they're undead, they have to be killed with a headshot, and if you're bitten, you become a zombie, right? That's the rule set. Within that rule set is the whole genre of zombie-inspired 28 Day Later, Walking Dead, sweat splatter zombies, all of them. No 2 alike, and that's where the creativity flourishes. Underneath those rules is a whole world of creativity. But yes, I'm a creative butterfly. Jim, I'm an artist, I don't follow rules. I'm a convention disruptor. It's right there on my business card. That's what I do. We don't need no stinking rules. Well, no, I'm not saying to conform. I'm saying create a pasture in which your creativity can flourish. And sometimes that means that you dig up old material and recycle it, or you cover it. And a prime example of that is 30 Rock. Everybody loves 30 Rock, right? Greatest television show ever made. It's awesome. There's a showrunner, she's got a boss, it's crazy characters, except it's a cover of The Muppet Show. 30 Rock is an exact lift of The Muppet Show. Who is Kermit the Frog but Tina Fey? So all they're doing is they're recognizing the rules of variety show comedy and repackaging it into a different character set. And so the rules remain constant. You get new results. You get a fabulous television show. I love 30 Rock. And it wasn't until later that I realized that they were using the rules or the discourse conventions of variety show, comedy, background show to create something that is exactly the same as The Muppet Show. Okay, here's the important part. Know when to flout rules. You are rule breakers. We are here because we are rule breakers. We swam upstream, so know when to flout the rules. Rules are there to keep you from thinking, to keep you from wasting time with analysis and thought. That's why the Army loves rules. Leadership is knowing when to break those rules, and you guys are all leaders, so break them when it feels right, when breaking and bending leads to interesting results, when you begin to repeat yourself too often, when following a fence through your pasture, which is like one of your rule sets. When I follow this rule set along with one hand and I come to a new unexpected result, and it leads to new interesting things. Feel free to open the gate and walk through. Remember, these are your rules. You can change them at any time. Question your assumptions and kill your darlings. Kill your darlings is a phrase that authors use to say the thing that you love, that beautiful piece of writing, that wonderfully rendered face, that whatever it is, it's so awesome. Sometimes, for the sake of the greater good, to advance your work, to get the piece resolved, you have to kill your darlings. Scrub out that face. These are hard-won lessons, right? Cut it up, to move on, to throw it out, means sometimes you have to sacrifice or kill your darlings. Okay, so that's the end of my talk. I'm going to send you out and say create your own rules, right? I recommend a small set. No more than 4 usually is enough. But to go back and reverse engineer, to look at what you're currently doing and say, what rules am I conforming to? What discourse conventions do I subscribe to? We all have them. Painters have them, drawers have them, photographers have them. We have rule sets in which we work. Ask yourself if you're too much of a copyist. Are you covering bands too closely? Maybe it's time to start playing a slightly sped up version. If everybody else is following these rules, maybe it's time for you to go over here and do something that's slightly different that will raise you above the background noise. Okay, so by examining your work and examining its discourse conventions, you can actually say, how can I be different? And in a world that is filled with saying, I think different can have the result of raising you above the background noise, which is all, I think, what everyone hopes for their work, to not be ignored. So you can look at your work, examine it, see how it conforms or strays from the discourse conventions of your genre, and then you can say, these are my rules, and this is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to follow Neil Gaiman's. I'm always going to be nice, be on time, and have great work. All right, thank you very much. I look forward to meeting you.